There's one more potential person showing up, but we do have quorum, and she had to step out for a moment, but I guess we could get started. Let's start with assurance of live streaming. I guess also we can go around and say our names for everyone who's here. Into the mic, yeah.
Dave DeBack.
Damaris Potter.
Rob Lekas, member.
Tressa Greshak.
Sharon Deaver.
Rachel Yondel.
David Benak.
Steve Romanelli.
Great. Okay, now assurance of live stream. My internet's slow, but if we can check. Looks good to go on Facebook. And was anyone able to check YouTube? Okay. All right, looks good on YouTube as well. So I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as sent out.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
All right, unanimous. Moving on, I would entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes from May, our last meeting.
I will make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye or raise your hand. All right, unanimous. Moving on. It's going to be a busy one today, but announcements, individual or otherwise educational in the area. Okay, we'll move on then. And do we have anyone on the phones for public comment at this time? And just a reminder for anyone listening, we'll have that again at the end for comment. Okay, no comments on the phone at the moment. I thought we had it in there for in-person comments as well. Is that not? We can do that in case there's anyone right now that wanted to comment as well. We'll have that again at the end as well, though. Okay. No comments right now. Okay. So moving on to ongoing business, I was going to have Jean go first since she's here to present on the quarterly report.
And okay, wow. I'm with Public Services in the Water Resources Division. I am the Water Programs Manager or / Environmental Programs Manager, and we have a lot of programs. So if anyone has anything in particular you want to hear about, please let me know. Otherwise, I've just kind of put down a list of things that we have ongoing, and we have a lot of properties with our water well fields, and we have a lot going on in stormwater. And then we have our educational outreach and what I call liability sites. Those are sites that the city of Kalamazoo has some responsibility in the cleanup of, and they're generally Superfund sites. So just reading off, kind of going from my notes here on wellhead protection, which is our #1 program to protect our well fields, our drinking water supply, etc. We have filled a position under me called the Environmental Support Specialist, which is fantastic for me, and I'm kind of catching up on my workload. That was vacated for 3 months, so got a little bit behind. Ashley Richardson is our new specialist, and she is fitting in perfectly. So a part of this job in protecting our groundwater is protecting our land, our well fields, and we have hundreds of acres in our well fields, which we've purchased specifically for the reason of restricting land use and chemical use. So we are putting all of the land management practices that were pretty much neglected for a long time together officially, and putting together the various components of land management, starting with forest management plans, which I mentioned previously. We now have 2 completed and a third one that we're starting. It's 700 acres. It's the El Sabo Preserve. So hopefully soon we'll have that a requisition approved. As part of that includes invasive species, deer management, and also selective tree harvesting because of the poor quality of the forest. We are also working with Eagle Forest to Michigan Faucet Program, as well as the Kalamazoo River Watershed Council, in educational awareness of land management and so forth. So we have reached out to Texas Township and hope to have an informational education night sometime over there just to talk about the El Sabo Preserve. It's 700 acres with a lot of bikes and a lot of walking, and we want to manage it much better. We have 2 fun projects going with the Boy Scouts. So we have 2 of our well fields. One is in Comstock, McLinden Trails, and this Saturday we will be out there with about 25 Boy Scouts, a few partners from Comstock Park, and our water operation division. We're all volunteering hours to actually officially put trail signs out, cut branches, and make it more of a trailway system that's beneficial to the station. We're removing all trails that are in the area of our service area so that there's no interference with our work there. So that's kind of exciting. And then the next one that we will do with the Boy Scout group is at El Sabo. We're going to tackle a few of the trails there and put up signage and try to reduce the confusion and people getting lost. So that's one of my major complaints I get. I'm lost in El Sabo. We, going along with this kind of land management, again, an educational component, we had some small funding from the DNR to put up an educational deer exclosure display. So essentially, they gave us enough money to do McLinden Trails as well as El Sabo. And what we do is we put up a 10-foot fence, 12 by 12 area, and we put a nice big apple tree in the middle, and then right next to it we put an identical apple tree with no fence around it, and we put a plaque out there talking about land management, forest management, and the effect of the deer population, which the DNR have visited our fields and said they're way overpopulated. They're kind of like a resort for the deer. But this is strictly educational, and I think you can figure out the outcome of the poor tree that's not in the fence. We've purchased the materials, and we're just trying to get some volunteers. So if there's any way we could get a few volunteers to help us put in 14 stakes in the ground, that would be great. One of the bigger things that we've done in our wellhead protection program is we've completed a 5-year update for our wellhead protection program plan, and that includes all of the drinking water supply components and how we are planned to protect them and how we manage them. Essentially, it's a pretty big endeavor. And along with that is what they call the contaminant source inventory. So that is inventorying every type of potential risk associated with chemical use or land use within our capture zones, which extend around our well fields. So that was a pretty big endeavor, and we got those done. Both are approved as of May, so that was pretty exciting. And At the well fields, we have now, and I think I mentioned this last time, putting together spill containment plans, and these are basically preparing to reduce risks of any type of contaminant getting into the ground from our own use of chemicals on site just to treat the water, etc. So we have 13 active well fields, and we're finally getting towards the end of finishing all of these. Kind of a new, exciting thing, we're cooperating with the Michigan Geologic Survey. We're going to be taking a lot of the geologic information that the city has from all of the drilling that they've done over the last 100 years or so, and we're going to be putting together some mapping that will help us establish a better understanding of our aquifer system and potentially be useful in finding new locations for source water. And the last thing, and Wellhead, we are renewing our Southwest Michigan Mountain Biking Association agreement for biking at El Sabo. And a part of that agreement is that the bikers do a lot of maintenance for us on the trails, as well as slowly rebuilding some of the trails so they're sustainable. And they've putting together kind of an aggressive plan to really redo some of those trails and make them sustainable, make them wider for both biking and hiking, as well as planning them so that we reduce the erosion and all the problems associated with that. So taking that hat off and talking about stormwater, we did get our MS4 NPDES permit May 31st. It was approved after we submitted it April 2022. There were two issues, the catch basin cleanout program, which we are required to do, as well as some new requirements for E. coli sampling of select creeks in Kalamazoo County. We asked for reconsideration several times on our application because of the inability for us to fund some of these activities to the extent that the state would like. They did not take in any of those considerations, so we have a new permit where they have rewritten those sections for us. There's some unique changes to this. It's a 5-year cycle normally, and this one they're going to terminate at 3 years. We will be reapplying for this same permit in 8 months, April 2025. And these rewritten sections of the catch basin and E. coli plans need to be developed and continue through May 2025, even after we reapply with a separate type of permit. Anyway, it's a little bit confusing, and we haven't quite figured out how that even works out with the timelines and so forth. And just a note that the other MS4 communities have the same issues, and some of them are still waiting for their permit from April 2022. One of the other things that is a permit requirement is a public survey to see if the public education that we conduct is effective and what people have gotten out of it. It's a very simple survey, and we are looking for an avenue to conduct this survey. There's no real rules to go along with why or where or when. And we do it in conjunction with KVCC because they nest under our stormwater permit. So that's something to think about if there's any opportunity where we would be able to, have the public take the survey. A new thing that Eagle has undertaken is E. coli sampling of the local creeks and the Kalamazoo River. They started on June 13th, and we were not aware of this till they started sending data to the health department, so we are trying to collect that data and see what it means. The issues that we're having is that we get the data, but we don't know how it's collected. So if it's collected when it's raining versus when it's dry, they refer to that as wet weather versus dry weather sampling. makes a huge difference in what the sample means and if it's comparable or usable. And so that's something that we're working on collectively as all the MS4s collaborating. And we collaborate because none of us have a lot of funding. So we're working under the Kalamazoo Stormwater Working Group, KSWAG.
Sorry, who did you say did the E. coli sampling?
Eagle.
Eagle, okay, just making sure.
Another thing Eagle is doing is they have a chloride study going on. I think you're probably aware of that, and we are monitoring those results. So there's not a lot to show because we really, the chloride is related to using its salt. This past winter, we did not use a lot of salt. We just had a mild winter. The things that we noticed, let's see, and this includes Asylum Lake, Woods Lake, Little Portage Creek, Chain of Lakes, West Fork, Portage Creek, Pawpaw Lake. Overall, the data shows an increase in chloride between the months of December 2023 and February 2024, with a steady decreasing trend through the winter and spring transition. The sample locations and water bodies respectively showing a large increase in chloride levels include the stormwater detention basin at Woods Lake, the in-lake stormwater basin Woods Lake, and South Drake Road Asylum Lake Inlet. So it's really just a couple months span where the chloride we're showing at those locations. The other locations really showed nothing significant as an increase in chloride. Okay, what else? Under stormwater, we're working also with Eagle on streamlining the city's process for the Soil Erosion Soil Control Program, SESC as it's referred to. And we're working with Director Baker and all the departments on maybe changing the status of our authority and so that it works better with Eagle and streamlines our process. Any questions on wellhead or stormwater? Crystal clear? The fun part, education. So under stormwater and drinking water, we have educational responsibilities through the state. So one of the things that we are working on is we have AI marketing tools now through our vendor Town Square Media. And you've probably heard some of our ads on radio, social media, et cetera, trying to help people navigate through the construction. And as we see problematic areas and business owners in need, we are interviewing them and getting their information out as much as possible. And really, we've put a tremendous amount of effort into trying to make this work and go out and talk to the business owners on foot and so forth. We've gotten a lot of positive response from the business owners, and it is a struggle for them, we recognize, but they are very grateful for the assistance. We've done 2 farmer market booths. A third one was canceled. It was full, so they wouldn't give us a free booth. But we are now showing off our wellhead protection and stormwater models to just teach people about, contaminants, how to do things better and so forth. And with a small mini grant from the state, we've been able to put together a lead service removal campaign. It's educational, and it talks about the city removing lead, but it also talks, more importantly, about what people can do if they don't know if they have lead services within their home. So we've got a whole kind of marketing booth set up now that we can go around to venues and promote educational materials. And there's also some social media ads that are going to appear for a few months through the spring and the summer. We had a public services week. We had 3 facilities, so our educational booths were at all facilities for all 3 days, which is a challenge, but we did it. We've been to the Girl Scout camp, and we have had KRESA, 2 of the KRESA groups, Vicksburg and then the downtown media center, join our contest for videos on educational ads kind of like save water, conserve water, don't pour this down the drain type things. And we have, so we've had a successful campaign. We've had 2 winners, and one of them will end up in the movie theaters. And I must say it was some of the most interesting group of videos I've seen yet. Unfortunately, if they had read some of the rules and put in the proper language, such as supported by the state of Michigan, Eagle, and this is done under the Kalamazoo Wellhead Protection Program and things like that, we would have had, more qualify. The last thing is I just wanted to mention that we are continuing to work with all the MS4s as a Kalamazoo Stormwater Working Group, which has been very successful, and I think probably the most powerful thing we have been able to do as a NPS MS4 communities with very little funding. And so I'm thankful and hope that we can find some other resources to actually go out and do something more actively than what we're doing. So that is something we would like to achieve. And the last topic I have are our liability sites. The Allied Paper Consolidated Landfill Project is big. It's, if you see the aerials of it, it's really massive. The endeavor, it's kind of almost hard to imagine how big and extensive it is, but they have come a long way, and they're probably, I'm guessing, like 50% or more done. There are some issues that occur here and there, and the new responsible party international paper is still in, they're still talking with EPA about how all of this is going to end up in the end, what is their responsibilities and so forth, but they are moving forward voluntarily, which is a good thing. I also wanted to mention that there's a neighborhood meeting concerning Allied Paper that's taking place tomorrow. I honestly can't tell you where it's at, but there is one just to get the community involved and keep them apprised of what's going on, and EPA is running that.
Where can people find that information?
Well, I'm not directly involved in that particular meeting, but I could try to find out and get it to you, Sharon.
There we go. What's the target date for the completion of that cleanup? You mentioned it was 50% done.
That's my estimate.
Okay. Any sense, is there any obligation that's been stated by the company when they're expecting to have that done?
No, they're still working with EPA on exactly what are their responsibilities and what is the final goal.
Okay.
But in the interim, they've taken over the construction and are doing a very nice job. There's a lot of issues, and as everyone knows, we've had a lot of water, rainwater, stormwater, and that has, complicated it. This is a unique system that's being built, and there's a lot of testing that goes on constantly to monitor stability and so forth. So a lot of rainwater to deal with this year, and it reduces the number of days that they're on site doing construction and so forth. And the last thing, very quickly, I wanted to mention the state contacted me the other day and informed me that the Cork Street landfill will be listed as an MPART site of PFAS contamination. So what we're finding is on the Superfund sites is we're being required to sample for PFAS to see if it's there, whether there was any reason to suspect that it should be there or not. They're just simply sampling, and PFAS is pretty much everywhere. So we're finding that most of these sites are becoming MPART sites.
Do you have any details for that, for the size of the contamination, basically?
I don't. I don't work on the Cork Street landfill, so I'm sorry, I can't tell you that. And that's all I have, unless you guys have more questions.
If you could find out the meeting since it's tomorrow, but could you do that and then bring it back by chance? I don't know if you would be able to search it so that we can
I'm
say
sure I
it
can
during
find
this
out.
meeting. That would be great.
Yeah, all right.
Okay.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
But I've been emailing the Eagle folks, and they're fine to wait a minute. Looks like more citizens came in. If we wanted to open up for public comments here, so we can go back to public comments, section E.
Yeah, we can go back to that. Yeah, we had mentioned that in the beginning, but if there's anyone here that was interested in making a public comment, you could come up to the podium now.
Hello and good evening. My name is Valerie Leith, and I have been a Kalamazoo resident since 2008 and an environmental advocate for as long as I can remember. Over the years, I have seen as well as appreciated the growth and changes Kalamazoo is attempting to make. However, I am concerned with the city's new movement over No Mow May. To start, the No Mow May movement started to save pollinating insects such as bees, butterflies. However, there is little evidence-based data that shows that No Mow May is having a positive effect on early pollinators. The only research I could find is opinion-based or peer-reviewed journal articles to support this movement. In fact, the research that has been done on this topic by credible sources suggests that it does not, in fact, have any positive effect on the early pollinators. It appears to just be a catchy slogan. I provided these mentioned articles in a previous emails to the city as well as provided them to Mr. Gish, who sits on this board. It is unsettling that the city continues to promote this movement with little support by science or data. In fact, these articles state that planting early blooming flowers promotes the positive effect that we are trying to achieve, and therefore should be the movement we push rather than No Mow May. Again, that has a lack of evidence-based data that makes our city look unkempt, which is not welcoming to visitors or potential residents or businesses. Again, it is upsetting that the city would so quickly support and promote this movement that may actually be detrimental to the vibrancy of our city and growth of our community. No Mow May enables many residents to carry their lack of unkept lawns into later months, having long grasses which welcome unwanted critters, weeds, and other nuances for their neighbors. It also allows residents to change their entire yards into natural gardens. Natural gardens aren't necessarily a bad thing, and I do support small, manageable gardens. However, the overgrowth does pose threats to the safety of other Kalamazoo residents. For instance, allowing residents to forego mowing their lawn and create natural gardens does make the streets of Kalamazoo unsafe. Some residents are taking it upon themselves to use city-owned curb sections as well as intersection corners to create said natural gardens. As seen in some of the pictures I submitted, these gardens obstruct vehicle sight, making it unsafe for walking and biking residents. Additionally, these overgrown yards and gardens create barriers for pedestrians to access the sidewalk, sometimes forcing them to walk in the street. Even the city fire hydrants and utility poles are being taken over, posing a risk for public safety to access. If the city is going to promote anything, please promote.
The microphone automatically cuts out at 3 minutes. That's why we're having that problem.
Oh, I apologize.
Typically, just so everyone knows, public commenters get 3 minutes to make a statement, but please continue.
Thank you. If the city is going to promote anything, please promote planting early blooming flowers instead of not mowing their lawn. If the city really wants this natural gardens, I encourage the city to properly enforce as well as create policies and regulations to hold residents accountable when it becomes untidy. Additionally, creating policy to remind residents to create these gardens on their own property and not city-owned curb space. I'm just asking this board and the city of Kalamazoo to encourage protecting our environment for future generations by supporting movements rooted in data such as early blooming flowers instead of no mow May, and to hold residents accountable for untidy yards and natural gardens. Thank you for your time.
Is there anyone else? You can go ahead and step up if you'd like to as well. If you could state your name as well.
Hi, I am Rita Chandler. I am a resident living on the north side. Just moved here a couple months ago. I lived in Kalamazoo for a bit, but I came back first time living on the north side, and about 2 weeks ago, I woke up at like 5:30 a.m. out of my sleep. I'm a very heavy sleeper. And it was just a horrible smell. It was almost like a burning plastic smell. I'm not sure what that was. I've heard a lot about graphic packaging, and I suspect that had to do something with the smell. But I was just wondering if anyone has any feedback about what that smell, where it's coming from, why is it happening. I'm also a bit concerned about the fact that it happened so early in the morning. Is it, not trying to be noticed by the public? So I just have some concerns about that.
I can't, yeah, you can sit down if you want. You don't have to stand up. But, so I can't say about that particular smell. But you're right, graphic packaging is a major emitter. They've been fined. They're under consent agreement with Eagle and EPA. But you're right, it is an overnight thing. There are a variety of monitors put up by the city, graphic packaging, and by private groups. And about 7 o'clock in the evening until about 7 o'clock in the morning every day, the pollutants are going to be very bad. It's just a fact. Nothing has been done about it. But there are efforts being made. So if you are around after, touch base with me. I'd be happy to talk with you some more about it.
Okay, great. Cool, thanks.
Any chance you have the phone number to call? Because we could find that. But there's definitely, like, in the moment phone numbers to call when you are experiencing that can be really helpful for air quality issues.
Before the air, something about smells to and it just showed me the stream of where the smell is. So I didn't really have a lot of knowledge about even what that was, or the knowledge they sent me back. It really was just a graph with lots of dots and a stream of, I'm assuming, where the smell is traveling or going. So if you guys also have more information about what exactly people are receiving back when they send a notice about the smell in the city, that would be awesome too.
Yeah, let's touch base if you have a chance, and I'll share a lot of information about resources, how to report, and how to track that. Yep.
Yes, thank you. Okay, anyone else in the audience that's interested in public comment at this time? We'll also do it again at the end if not. Okay, hearing none, we can move to the next item. Oh, one moment.
My name's Rita Chandler. I was also wondering if you guys have any ideas or concerns about fireworks on the 4th of July. If you guys have any answers for sustainable fireworks or anything that is going to help minimize the amount of smoke and air pollution caused by fireworks, as well as cleanup for fireworks. I know a lot of people set off fireworks, and I don't know if anyone else is actually cleaning up the remains of the fireworks, but I just had a question about that too.
I just want to say the air quality monitors, if you followed those between 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock in the evening on the 4th of July, they were highly unsafe air quality because of it. You're right. It's something that people don't recognize, but it is an absolute respiratory health problem.
Other than knowing that it's legal in Michigan, is anyone aware of any specific ordinances or laws that prevent local ordinances for fireworks? Do you already have that pulled up? No, that's something different. Okay. Oh no, you do. You're so fast.
I just know one thing too. I mean, the state sets a minimum of like when you can launch fireworks, and we can't. The state supersedes anything that we can do. But Kalamazoo's codes and ordinances have fireworks in there.
Do you know if there's anything that restricts them during, because I know I was seeing some articles about it being a bigger problem depending on how the air already is. Are there any extra restrictions when the air quality or the weather is already in a state that would perpetuate it to be worse than usual, which
or dangerous for that matter?
Seemed like it, yeah, for as far as human health goes, it really seemed like that was, I don't know, I was seeing that a bit, I guess, this year in multiple counties in Michigan.
Yeah, just quickly glancing here, it looks like most of the concerns are related to, high possibility for fire days, like no burn days, but that's something we could look into.
Thank you. And I don't have the agenda in front of me, so I kind of need that. Okay. Moving on. Yes, we can move to discussion of the comments emailed to the committee. It's been 2 months, so, and then Eagle's not here yet, but they are coming, or they're coming in remotely, aren't they? Oh, okay. Okay, do we want to move to that then, and then we can go back? Okay, we'll do that.
All right. Hey, Carrie, they should be on the line there, Eagle. If you open up the phone lines, it should be our Eagle friends.
While we wait, I guess I'll just read the slides. So it seems like we're going to have John Olson and Erica Schuff from Eagle talking about state implementation, the SIP, so State Implementation Plan Development Unit, Air Quality Division. Yeah, and they are from Eagle. Any luck? Justin, is it right that we have one vacancy on this committee as well? I'll just mention that since there's some guests today. If you live in the city limits of the city of Kalamazoo and you're interested, there's an application process and we have an opening.
You said an opening for what?
Rita, I just want to let you know I found you on Facebook and sent you a bunch of resources. Yep.
Do we have any suggestions?
I would say we can, I'd make a motion that we invite Eagle to join us next month.
Low-tech version?
I know, I'm like, worst case, this doesn't work, we can reschedule this for when we both could be in person.
I mean, if you want to do that.
I was hearing her.
If we reschedule this and you would like to see this, you can always watch it live on YouTube or on Facebook.
Both, unless
Both.
there is technical issues, which it sounds
Okay,
like
I'm
there is.
assuming if we get them, there are not those issues, but maybe that's not a safe assumption.
The public is also always welcome to join these meetings monthly.
100%. Please come. We love all the people.
Would they be able to come in person? That would be super ideal next month if they could. Okay, because we would love to, have that. Okay, sounds like we will plan to move that to ideally next month and rescheduling. So, Eagle, so feel free to come with questions as well. Okay, moving on. Well, I feel like, did we skip the emails? No, I think this is. Or is, okay, discussion of, both. We had a few emails. It's been 2 months now. So we did have some questions about water quality things, and we passed them along to different departments in the city to answer those questions, and invited them to visit here as well. And I don't know if anyone had a specific list or specific different ones, but we also had the No May email, which we could move towards. Okay. Alrighty. Does anyone have comments?
About No Moment? Or, I guess to address, sorry I forgot your name, but her concerns about No Moment, I think I guess no mow May has never been promoted as a solution to like promoting native gardens and pollinators and just green spaces in general, but I think it's a great start, and I think, you know, no mow May and also like her concerns kind of go hand in hand because it's about like promoting native species and helping pollinators thrive. And so I think like it's very like this is definitely something to consider. You know, like you know, I think no mow May is a great start, and it's a good concept, but it's definitely a multifaceted program, and I really appreciate like these concerns being brought up too, because that's kind of how we improve these programs. And there's also still guidelines to no mow May, like people still, although they're exempt from certain like violations, they still are required to like mow like near like from the curb to the street and like keep these public spaces kept. And so I think another issue and another challenge is just enforcement of that. You know, I mean, each individual is going to do what they want to do, but I think like in order to keep promoting this, that is definitely an issue that we could talk about.
Yeah, I also think, you know, no mow May, it's kind of like don't use plastic straws, right? It's simple messaging so that you can warm people up to a broader idea. When you talk about skipping plastic straws, and yes, I know this is very controversial, so we don't have to get into like the controversy of it. Really what you're saying is, you know, ooh, skip plastic straws, maybe next time you skip a plastic fork, or you take your own cup to the coffee shop or something like that. And no mow May, to my mind, is something that's, as long as it's meeting the, you know, regulations that are structured out, it's really less about the effectiveness on pollinators, although that's always a hope, and more about warming people up to seeing these green spaces and experiencing these green spaces, because there's always going to be a trade-off. I mean, you identify yourself as someone who cares about the environment. I think that's wonderful. We all identify that way too. As we do things that help the environment, we are going to be faced with spaces that, compared to the way we were raised and the images we've been shown, they look unkempt. And there are a few of the pictures that you've shown that feel a little bit like they're not being managed very well. But others fall closer to the parameters of a native garden. Some of them, I believe, are managed or they're by permission of the city as well. So, you know, issues with walkability, definitely, we always have to consider accessibility, especially when it comes to wheelchairs and people who have walking issues. But we have to be ready to ask ourselves as a community, what trade-offs are we willing to do? And how much patience can we have with ourselves to accommodate to these changes? It looks like you may have also had a concern about ticks. I think Justin and Alexa had a great article about the impact, or well, I guess I say the association or lack thereof of tick populations and native species. If one of the two of them or someone else who has read that article in depth want to speak a little bit more to that, that would be amazing. But I guess those are kind of my starting thoughts. If anyone wants to add or comment, yeah.
Rob Leakus, member. I was a huge advocate of no mow May. It seemed like it was a great idea. I keep a perennial wildflower garden year-round as much as I could. The no mow May, I do believe, after exploring both sides of the discussion, I'm not going to. I supported it this year with the yard sign and went to the city. I stayed within regulations. I mowed 5 feet from the street, 3 feet from neighbors' property lines and everything. The signs does lean towards it not being beneficial. The longer grasses, when you chop it off at the end of the month, it's harmful to the grass, it kills the grass, and then the amount of wildflowers that do help the early pollinators, the trade-off just isn't there. So I side with the resident, and I think while the intentions are good, that there might be better ways to pursue it. And the yard signs, at least the city was doing, trying to cover all their bases. One side says no mow May, the other side says plant for pollinators. So now I just conveniently turn the yard side around from no mow May, and I advertise the plant for pollinators. So
I guess I want to point out a distinction as well, because I'm not sure, and maybe you can talk more broadly about this. The pictures that you shared, some of those seem to fall more in the category of an unkempt yard, maybe something that someone is like, oh, I'm just not going to mow this in May because I don't have to. Oh, no one's catching me, so I'm not going to. But others, I'm very familiar with those areas. I live in this neighborhood as well. And I can verify those are native gardens. It's not the same thing as overgrown turf grass. So it's impact to the species in the area and the expectations, and really the way it's handled by the city is very different, because there is what I think we said in a prior meeting, it's a little fuzzy, but basically if it's intentional and it's clearly intentional, it's not really viewed as a problem by the city unless there are, invasive species or something like that. Then that's accurate, right, by everyone else's understanding?
Okay, yeah. One, we'd want to avoid legislating aesthetics. I mean, I see a big green grassy lawn and I think that's a monochromatic eyesore. Yeah, so it's that we can't say what people should like. The other thing is, what does no mow May accomplish? Best case scenario, it gets people interested in living in a more sustainable fashion. I mean, if it's the start, that's a good thing. Ecologically, it's actually destructive. It's not neutral, it's actually destructive. Because what you're doing is encouraging non-native species to go to seed, to spread across the landscape. You're encouraging pollinators to pollinate those plants that are in turf grass, which are not native species, which are going to choke out and reduce habitat for native species. They don't help pollinators. If you go to any no mow May lawn and do a survey, and people have done a bunch of these surveys, what you see almost exclusively is European honeybees, which are not endangered, which are not in trouble, and don't help native plants. They actually hurt native bee species by taking away food and by spreading disease. These are actually ecological negatives that are associated with this practice. We just need to encourage the planting of native species and producing habitat that is actually ecologically responsible. The other thing too, just to make sure that for people in the audience, this body has zero power. We can do nothing. We can't do anything. At best, we can ask the city to do something and they'll ignore us. So just put it there.
No, that's not totally fair. You're right. You're right that we do not have any power, but we do make recommendations. And part of the reason we have people involved like Justin is so that voices are heard. There can actually be some public consideration. And, your emails that you're sending don't just go into a void. So it's not completely pointless. I do think you make a good point, though. Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing, this is Steve Romanelli. My suggestion, and first of all, it's Valerie, right? Okay. Thank you for bringing this up. I'm not trying to make this overblown, but I think it would be very valuable for the city to reach out in a wider voice and start to get input from the silent people who have definite feelings about this. Because right now, all I can do is speculate and guess. So I think it would be valuable if we get wider from the community, their reactions, positive or negative, about their experience with No Mow May. At least then we'll have some data to start to work with.
I'd like to second your thought there. This is Dave DeBack. Because if you take a look at the genesis of this, in this country at least, I think it started in Britain, but it was in northern Wisconsin. So their May is basically our April. So and I would think that it has an entirely different impact on if you do this in April versus in May. And you're absolutely right. There's a lot of negative issues that are going on as well. But overall, it's got people talking. So I think it's just time for review. And I think that that's what this board is kind of good for, is get people coming in, talking. There are people that actually watch this on YouTube and on Facebook. So yeah, here we go.
Yeah, I also agree. I think there are a lot of recommendations I could think of off the top of my head for ways we could improve this, and also just like sticking to the the goal, which is promoting like native species, ecologically sound habitats, areas in an urban environment. So, you know, I could think of ways to like, I don't know, maybe we could use grant money to like, you know, like give residents like seedlings or like other resources to like get them started. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, functioning in the way that it is right now. But yeah.
I just want to add a real quick follow-up on the point David made. There actually is science that supports it, but you're right, it's science out of England. It was the whole concept was designed around meadows in the UK that would normally be mowed, and they're meadows that are basically wild. So leaving those wild left the native pollinators food throughout the region there. So there is science, it's a completely different situation.
So I just want to say a couple things. We're not quite done. We did plan to have this as a further discussion in general, talking about lawns and native plants as a continued conversation. One thing that I didn't hear mentioned that is one small benefit that I appreciate is less emissions for the mowing, although I 100% would rather personally see all native plants instead of something that came across the world as a basically ideal in colonization for the monoculture lawn. I think that's incredibly outdated, and we understand that it has terrible ecological effects that we need to do better for the environment. But I also don't like the idea of forcing certain things. And as far as aesthetic, yeah, that's just totally not an easy conversation because I hate the monoculture lawn with so much passion. And that is never going to look good to me, but I understand there are so many people out there that only see that as good. So aesthetic is a really hard kind of conversation. If we're talking about environment, I think we should really focus on how we can rebuild the ecosystem that we've destroyed through history in this country. And I also really don't like the idea of criminalizing people that have different ideas of what they want that to look like, because that is just fining people in a way that isn't helping educate and make things better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I also want to say we mentioned maybe doing a survey or something like that. There's a little bit of back and forth. I think if question number one is how do we handle No Mow May next year, I think that's definitely something up for further discussion. Maybe we want to continue doing it. Maybe we want to continue, or maybe we want to shift to something, I don't know, we create our own catchphrase that is about planting native plants, and maybe we can find seeds and have a fun planting day and things like that. But I do think it's valuable for us to kind of stick to the science if it really comes down to it. I think people, in part because of the aesthetics questions, the way people view these things is very important, but when it comes to decision making, you know, are you going to allow something that is an absolute detriment to your environment because everybody else likes it? I lean towards don't default to that. But that's kind of my opinion. And I think ultimately this is, it's a while until May. So maybe we keep this in the conversation for the table.
And just in response to Stephen, I'd have to see the statistics on like the net negative or whatever, and especially the European honeybee. While I realize like it's beneficial for apiaries and stuff, I don't think they're the primary pollinators. I think the best part of No Mow May is it gives dandelions a chance, where most people view that as a weed, where it's actually super beneficial as an early pollinator, and there's plenty of carpenter bees and native bees, and that really helps out. So destigmatize the dandelion and give them a chance, because they are the ones that most people are out there with the weed man and pesticides and stuff. So
Okay.
they fight the turfgrass, but yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. If we could have any last comments go quicker so that we can get to other items, that would be helpful. Like I said, we are going to continue to talk about this kind of a thing ongoing. So any final thoughts? Otherwise, I'd suggest moving on. Getting back. Okay, unfinished business. Was there anyone speaking on an update for litter? I don't know why this is on this part of the agenda. Okay. Do you have the update from Chris? I guess the way you said it, I thought that, never mind. We can put that on later. Perfect. Community Sustainability Plan update. Justin.
I'll invite Alexa, who has the data.
Hello. Okay, maybe I need to stand closer. So I guess to start, I have some data from No Mow May. We had 431 households voluntarily say that they were participating, and based on what those participants said, supposedly 53 acres was dedicated to No Mow May within the city. Moving on, reusable takeout containers. If you guys have been following some of the updates on the media and things, you'll see that we are launching soon.
I'm sorry, do we have slides with this?
Okay. No slides. Yeah, we're launching soon at Artisan Sandwich Company and Sarkozy Bakery. Should be within the next couple of weeks. They're just working through the processes to get those set up. And we still have funding available for 13 more businesses if they are interested in adding reusable containers to their establishment. Right now we have a home energy survey that's live. We have that live to help learn more about the housing stock in Kalamazoo and its resiliency, as well as folks' knowledge and perspectives on home energy efficiency projects. We have 150 responses so far and are still looking for more. And those responses are helping to plan a home energy efficiency summit, which will be in the fall. More details on that will be shared at the next meeting. Yesterday, we had a bike audit with the League of Michigan Bicyclists. We biked from WMU's Office for Sustainability into the Knollwood neighborhood, as well as from the Northside Association for Community Development to the Kick Pool. We had 11 people on the first audit and 8 people on the second audit, which was a nice small group to have some productive conversations about how we can make the bikeability of those areas better. So we should have a report on that in the next couple of weeks. We'll be able to share that out. And then the last item I have is that Justin has been working with a climate fellow from the University of Michigan, a grad student doing research on integrated pest management in the city. And one of the pieces that has been emerging from that is helping bats in our area as a piece of the integrated pest management. So the first thing that we're going to be doing with that is building some bat boxes. So we have an event coming up on August 13th from 6 to 10 p.m. at Bow in the Clouds Preserve, which is a Southwest Michigan Land Conservancy property. And we'll be soliciting some volunteers to help build these bat boxes, and then we'll have 2 different bat experts from Kalamazoo talking more about bats in general and the research that they're doing.
I have a question on that.
Yeah.
I saw the event and it's free to the public, correct?
Yeah.
So I was wondering if the community is going to be able to build their own there, or that is just something to learn and then take home and then build their own if they wanted, basically.
Okay. This event is for helping us build the bat boxes, which will go up around the city. And the goal is that people can kind of learn and experiment with building the bat boxes there. And then if you want to build them at home later, that would be awesome. So, yeah. Any other questions? No? Well, hopefully we'll see you all at the bat event.
Okay. Moving on, so procedural, we, like I said earlier, have one open seat, so I just wanted to mention that since there's people here again. And we are a volunteer committee that technically recommends things to City Commission. So as far as that whole power discussion, that's what we are intended as. And we also have subcommittees reports that we always do at the end of these meetings, which is after this, and we had some email discussion about adding subcommittees, and a lot of that is, since we are all volunteers, dependent on what we individually would like to add to, so we can add different subcommittees if there are people willing to take each of those on to be able to do these basically follow-up reports, which can be very short or basically monthly as much as possible. Not everyone has updates every month as well, but we had talked about adding discussion ongoing for native landscape and waste. So I guess, is there anyone that felt like they wanted to take either of those things on?
I think I'm interested in the native landscape subcommittee and what that could look like. But right, like what you said, it kind of depends on time. I guess, and also who else would be involved is a question.
Yeah, so a lot of them are basically, but it's not all consistent. So a lot of them are people going to a different meeting and then reporting back. So that's what we have with the Planning Commission, Tree Committee, for example. But there's also Parks and Rec and Asylum and Quality Management Council. But there's also, I guess that is most of them. So Justin, you had some recommendations for what that could look like if you wanted to speak on that. I think we have also had things like waste on here, but that's been multiple times in the last few years. At least we had waste subcommittees, and we just had multiple people from this body meet and try to bring ideas to the committee. So, Justin, did you want to speak to how you were thinking of those specific additions?
Yeah, so the two, one with the native landscaping came out of some of the NOMO May discussion, but also as the city works towards a B city designation, they require a native landscaping type subcommittee. And it can be a subcommittee of a formal committee. So this is a formal committee. So we'd create a subcommittee to discuss native landscapings and integrated pest management, native species, things like that. Then the second subcommittee that I recommended is the urban deer subcommittee. That one would, right now we have the Kalamazoo, the urban deer plan. So that subcommittee would form around that and try to work through that plan, just build some capacity there and get some citizen involvement as we try to kind of investigate what's going on with urban deer.
And for okay, so I just wanted to point out an example. Wildlife and natural resource protection that Tressa covers, that's not technically another committee that is meeting and then presenting, but it's historically been about sometimes deer discussion, sometimes native plant discussion, and also the peregrine falcon couple that we have here in downtown Kalamazoo. So what was the name of what you had just said about for the urban deer, what that would be, what that would look like?
Yeah, so it's a bit nebulous, but people that sit on this committee would work with me to work through the urban deer ad hoc committee and report, which is here on the city's website. So just making sure this gets the attention it deserves.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, just a question about it again. So ad hoc, so basically, my understanding is that you would form for the purposes of some resolution, and it's not necessarily a forever ongoing thing, but once there's some resolution, or?
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand the question. That's on me. Basically, yeah, this report has been brought up and hasn't gotten the attention it deserves, so I would put together a group of, I'll say, 7 people that would help me go through it, because there are steps here that we haven't taken yet, and they'd help me get through the steps. So a lot of it's education outreach, working with neighborhoods to understand people's feelings about deer, which I probably get 2 or 3 emails a month about urban deer. So they'd work with me on that.
And would this be your intention of one person from this committee at least, and then also other community members?
Community members, DNR professionals, yeah, I'd cast a wide net, but I want one person from this committee to work with me on it.
Okay. And is there, I assume then, since it's not figured out who and everything, you don't have like a scheduled time that you all would meet, so it could be dependent on who is able to join us?
Yep, yeah, that'd be too far ahead. Yeah, I got to figure out who's sitting first.
Okay. And is your intention also to have it as like an additional official committee like the tree committee or ECC, for example?
Not the ECC, because ECC sits atop the other committees, so it would be a subcommittee of the ECC technically.
Okay. As the person who is in charge of the wildlife bit, I would love to have something more specific to be involved with and to do. So I'm not opposed to combining them or just taking this on and being part of your deer committee or joining the native plant committee. Please give me something more to do. It's hard to have that broad of a category without something a little bit more to refine it. To report on every month.
I like the idea of if you're willing to do that work, make the deer the wildlife component here and take that on as your, I think that's a logical fit if you're okay with it.
100%, and I work well with grumpy people.
And Sharon, there was another one here. This is Steve. Waste, is that another one that was suggested, or?
I think that was discussed because I mean, we're already mostly monthly going over, and my apologies, I should have asked Chris, I thought you did, but I probably should have, for the monthly update. But normally we've been recently doing the updates for how waste has been going in general. And previously, we have made it be discussing how to improve litter, or that's how the EPS recycling originally pilot and now program got started, was from a subcommittee of waste from ECC. So yeah, did you bring that one up? And did you have intentions for that?
Yep, that came from that. But also at the beginning of this year, I believe it was when Doug from the Kalamazoo River Watershed came up, there was suggestion that there would be a subcommittee of citizens and folks who would be interested in trying to work on the Kalamazoo River litter issue. So I see, you could do all types of waste. You could define waste however you want to define it on that subcommittee.
Yeah, it's also been discussed about composting improvements, and it's a very large topic. So I'm interested in that, but I don't want to 100% say I will. I've done it twice already. But it was previously recommended that the chair not necessarily already do too many, because I am in the Silent Lake Policy Management Council as well. But I am interested potentially if no one else is.
Well, I'll throw my hat in the ring, because right now I'm not aligned with anything, so this would be a good opportunity for me.
That would be great. Yeah, I guess the idea is hopeful that everyone at least has one subcommittee that they're helping with, so that could be great.
And you're welcome to jump in if you wish to.
I could at least brief you on what has been done in my last 5 years, basically.
That'll work.
If other people aren't going to line up, hurry. Damaris, I'll help you with the Native Landscapes group.
I would also be willing to help with that as well.
Yeah, I thought we might have like everybody join.
Also
that.
interested in that, but yeah, again, capacities. We'll see.
Well, I'll throw my, actually, the wildlife and the natural resource protection, I would love to work with you on that, absolutely.
Justin, any chance, since I don't have the paper in front of me, that you've written down any of these suggestions of what people would like to add on? I don't know if you have an editable version in front of you on the computer.
They'll be in the minutes for next week or next month.
And how quickly do we think we can get those?
Within a week.
Okay, that'd be great if we can sift through that.
Do we need to make a motion for anything? Adding those
I don't think
committees?
so for this. It's just
Okay.
what people are saying, and if you withdraw, you can always let us know. But yeah, should we go to the actual reports? Is that what's next, I think? Okay. Yep, so Bobby is not here right now, so we will pass on those two at this time. Did you have anything by chance?
No, not for that, but I did do tree committee this week, so when we get back to that.
Okay. I don't know, it's been 2 months since we met, so yeah, Peregrine Falcon update. I don't know if anyone has anything more recent than what I know, but okay, never mind. We'll move on. Planning Commission, Rachel.
Yeah, so the update I have from the Planning Commission is not a lot. For this month, the Friendship Village that is north of Maine on Drake, I believe, they were updating their PUD. It does fall within the NFP. I don't know kind of what our place is within that and making recommendations, or if it is something, because it involves a lot of site analysis, if that is something we even kind of step into at all. But they're redoing a lot of their property, tearing down, rebuilding, adding parking. There's a lot happening. I think the specific section that kind of falls within the NFP, because I don't believe the whole site does, is the northern, like 250 feet section. It is like a woodland area. What they're proposing is just adding in a stormwater basin, which I believe is very needed, coming from like the surrounding residents.
Do you know how many parcels the property is in general?
I do not know that off the top of my head.
Okay, because my understanding is if it is designated in any of the, in a parcel, then that whole parcel would be under the designation, even if the entire parcel doesn't have that specific feature over the entirety of it.
Gotcha. What I, just the image they showed, they like showed the whole property and then showed like a grade area that like they said was NFP. So I might have that wrong. I was kind of going by that image. So I don't, they said that they'd met with the NFP and that everything was up to their standards. So I guess I'm just not really sure what that looks like for
Okay,
us.
yeah, it's unfortunate we don't have Bobby here to talk about what, it sounds like they already did go to the NFP review board.
Yep.
So are they moving quickly on that we wouldn't be able to get more of an update next month, or
Yeah,
decisions already made? And
the Planning Commission has recommended it to the city commissioners to approve their PUD with the amendment that within that 250 foot, which is the like main like woodland area there, that they can put in a storm basin but must like retain. Like that can exist within that, but they can't really take away. So I think that's kind of where it's landed. And I don't like personally like it's needed.
So was it a variance request to try to do it slightly differently than what the NFP is?
No, it wasn't a variance.
Okay.
It was updating their PUD, and that was just an amendment to their like request. So I don't think that it's changing what the NFP has put in place. But
okay,
that is where we're at.
Sorry for all the questions. Any more?
No, that was all.
And tree committee.
Tree Committee had an emergency meeting this month to request to remove 10 trees on Water Street from Westnedge to Park. This is another one of the infrastructure removals. They had to remove the trees in order to update the infrastructure, so it was passed. I believe they said we're going to get a 3-to-1 on tree plantings. And the trees that are being removed they're mostly trees that either weren't doing well anyway, or I think one's like a pear tree, like they're trees that are non-native, not something we'd plant right now, or just not doing well. So it doesn't sound like there's any great loss. There probably won't be a determination on where the new trees will go until after the arena is constructed, so that they don't plant a tree that they then have to dig up to make way for a bulldozer or something. So that was that update.
Okay. Asylum Lake Policy Management Council didn't have a quorum, so we didn't meet this month, and last month was canceled. So I think I've given the most recent update on that. And Parks and Rec?
Was unable to make the meeting. They are doing a lot of movies in the park, though. So I encourage everyone to attend those. They are available for online.
Okay. And Kalamazoo Water?
Yeah, an update going on the Falcons, just while we're here. I'm not sure if you have more updated information, but there were either 2 or 3, and one died, hit the side of a building. The other one went to flight school and is apparently doing quite well and is back in the nest and has its wings and all. So I cannot remember who told me that, but somebody who's volunteering with Gavel was helping out. On River Watershed, they have a lot of stuff that's been on their website in terms of resources. One of those relates to litter, and that is you can find it just by searching it in a search engine, or there's an app, keeping tabs on the Kalamazoo. And what that allows you to do is geolocate whenever you spot trash. So it can report it, what it is, how much there is, and start to create a database so that can be tracked and addressed. The other things that I wanted to point out that are really useful resources on the website, because they're doing a lot with Eat Safe Fish. And so they have a fish contamination thing where you can put in where the fish is and what kind of fish, and it tells you like what the levels of different contaminants would be in that fish, whether it's safe. They also have something for sediment and soil contamination in waterways, and also for phosphorus contamination. So there's some useful interactive tools that will help people better understand the health of the river.
And was that the name of the app, the Keeping the Tabs on the Kalamazoo?
Keeping Tabs on the Kalamazoo.
Okay.
And you can, like I said, you can just put it in a search engine and it'll
come
pop
up. Okay, great. I know we were having issues with that before. Okay, perfect. Thank you. And then anything on odor task force?
Has not been any announced meetings.
Alrighty, and then we are on to, I guess we could do, well, that's at the end, final committee comments if you have one of those. Okay, we'll check the phone lines, and then we'll do a last public comment in for anyone here if you had anything. So is there anyone on the phone line? No calls on the line. All right, so if there is anyone here that wanted to speak, you could come up.
Hello again, Valerie Leith, Kalamazoo resident. I just want to clarify a couple things, as I wasn't able to, and I was not aware of this ticker being valid, so here I am just eating up more time. I guess my suggestion to this committee, I hear a lot of not wanting to enforce fees and all that stuff. I'm not really sure what the solution is, but I am highly concerned about citizens taking these natural gardens to curbside properties, as shown in the pictures that I submitted to this committee today, as it is preventing visible line of sight for foot, bike, and vehicle traffic. Additionally, I think it's imperative that some of these pictures that I submitted, there is a blatant fire hydrant blockage. There is also a blatant corner blockage, and that one is specifically at Crane and Inkster. As we all know, there is heavy construction, terrible speeders, and I actually fear for my life coming around that corner sometimes when I'm walking my dogs because of that garden has taken control. I think this committee could take it to the city, as I was silenced by them and brought to this committee to forefront my concerns, that there does need to be regulation regarding curb and corner grass, whatever this is, natural gardens, as that is city property. Additionally, I think that we could do better as a committee and as a city of kind of curbing some of these concerns that were brought today by myself as well as other residents of Kalamazoo, and encourage morphing the ideas that this committee has into something that works for all Kalamazoo residents, as Kalamazoo is a city for all. And I apologize that there's no blatant pictures of people who ignored the end of No Mo May because I was out of town. So I was unable to capture those pictures, but again, wanted to bring to the forefront that this is really causing a concern in our neighborhoods, and I understand the protection of the native species, and I would like to see more things promoting those versus things that aren't as evidence-based. So I thank you very much for your time and hearing my concerns about it, because I am not the only resident in this city that feels that way. I think not a lot of people know about this committee and are open to bringing their concerns to the forefront. So I do want to mention the comment about the tick in my last 30 seconds is that was a direct post from our county Health and Human Service, where they directly talk about keeping your lawns short. And I think that that is something that as a dog owner myself, I'm very cautious of, and I think that citizens that keep their lawns unkempt and the grass long also invites these potential issues outlined in the Health and Human Service.
Anyone else in the audience? Okay, hearing, oh, yep, go ahead.
My name is Rita Chandler. I just had a few questions about data. I'm wondering if the city of Kalamazoo is able to or already does allow the air monitor data to be viewed by the public. I know that there is regular data of each day, I think up to a week, but I'm wondering if there is past information available to people to view the data. I had another question about data, and I can't think of it.
Well, let's start with this one, and maybe you'll think of it. Justin, did you have anything to comment first, I guess, about that one?
The city doesn't really track air quality. There's some Eagle data, and then I don't know if you've seen Just Air. You can sign up for air quality alerts and view air quality in your date and your area. But as a city, the air quality issue, it's more of a state Eagle issue. But yeah, I would check Just Air, and they give you updates and sensors around town. Okay. But it's governmental. It's probably out there or FOIA-able, but the city doesn't have that data.
Isn't Just Air only tracking a few of those potential contaminants? Yeah, okay. And then David, you said you had some more to say.
Oh, I was just in response to that. Yeah, I'm doing some other work with another group that had to FOIA that information. So I don't know how much, Justin's answer is accurate. If you want more historic data, more than the most recent, you're going to have to FOIA it.
Okay, and you, the last word, I didn't hear you. I think it started with an F, though.
FOIA, F-O-I-A, it's Freedom of Information Act. Okay. And yeah, I didn't put that FOIA in, so I don't know exactly the track that it went in. But you can file for any government data. You have a right as a citizen to ask them for it, and they have to give it to you. So it's Freedom of Information Act.
You can call the city via 311 during their business hours. It's basically customer service for the city, and they can initiate that for you.
Okay, cool. Thank you, guys. I didn't remember my next question, so I will just email. Cool. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
I guess before you step down, just while it's up here, so there's a Kalamazoo District Air Quality Division for Eagle. Maybe you might want to start there, up on the board, or if you can see it. Maybe jot those numbers down and give those folks a call.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else? Okay.
Good evening, Christina Durrett, Kalamazoo resident. I came here to hear from EGLE about the clean air, clean water, and while all of you are volunteers, they are paid by us taxpayers, and I'm very disappointed, and I want it noted in the minutes that their lack of attendance at a meeting like this is reprehensible, in my opinion. Now, I don't know who Bobby is, who is supposed to give the clean air, clean water. Is he an employee or a volunteer? He's one I use. All right, so he at least, as a volunteer, I get it, but I just do not understand how, when there are so many concerns about the clean air and clean water, that EGLE can just give a meeting like this a skip. All right, thank you.
Christina, before you take off, there is a bright side. They were going to present to us remotely for today's meeting, but the next meeting, it sounds like they'll be in person, so we can ask questions and have a conversation, which will be a plus.
Yeah, that's a plus.
Yeah.
And I believe we're planning for that to be next month in August.
Yeah, they reached out and rescheduled. They'll be in person August 21st.
All right, is there anyone else in the audience that would like to comment? Okay, if not, then we can have closing comments for anyone on the committee, if you have any.
I said I'm glad to see people in the audience. Thanks for being here and showing concern.
Definitely, and I had something, but I totally forgot. So anything else? All right, hearing nothing, we can then adjourn.